Well, folks, here we are. Another Watch Your Story. We're going to hang out. And yes, this guy,
Hi.
Eric O'Sullivan, is in the house. We're going to hang out with him and talk to him a little bit about all sorts of things. Eric, my friend, thanks, brother.
Hello, Pops. Thank you for having me on. This is wonderful. Time
We're
well
doing
spent.
all sorts of stuff. If you haven't checked it out, there'll be a link. Also, Eric's going to do a comic book talk with us. Make sure you check that out as well. And that is the bulk of a lot of the stuff that's on his YouTube channel, but he also does other stuff. We'll talk to him about that. So make sure you check the description, get subscribed, find out that. So, Eric, give everybody the elevator pitch on you and what you bring to the old YouTube channel.
Well, hey there. I'm Eric O'Sullivan, a.k.a. Reverend Sully, ordained on the internet 25 years ago. I performed 4 wedding ceremonies and a couple of naming ceremonies for some infants, and I am a spiritual person. I'm also a professional chef, and I also am a big comic book fan. And those are the 3 things that make up the majority of my content on my YouTube channel. I also do if you can see some planets with your naked eye, there are 5 planets in the sky that you can see with your naked eye. I will point them out when I see them. And also, I like bunnies. There are wild bunnies everywhere where I live in Boston.
There's a lot of videos on his channel of bunnies, just so you guys know.
And I talk to the bunnies just for a couple of minutes. It's goofy. You know, I've probably gotten my most trolls over the bunnies. But in the comments, but I don't care. I just say to the trolls, you know what? Thank you for watching and thank you for the comment.
There you go. That's it. Just keep it moving.
I've gotten a lot of subscribers. I recently got over my 1,000 subscribers, and I would never have done that without the help of my community. Thank you so very much. But also, I grinded that from a lot of using YouTube Shorts for the sole purpose of say subscribe for more cooking videos, subscribe for more bunnies, subscribe for more gratitude lists, subscribe for more daily comic book talk, engaging and interesting and positive.
Yeah, that's one of the things that you spend a lot of time doing too, is trying to say, listen, I know there's a lot of reason to hate, a lot of reason to be critical. And you and I both share the fact that while that may be true, I think we do have a good responsibility to say, yes, if, but, and if, or like, oh, yes, this may be garbage. So why don't you read Old Man Logan? Yes, this is really rough and life is pretty crappy right now. But what about how blessed you are and your daily gratitude list and that kind of thing? Did that just kind of come innately from you? Or is that just who Eric is? Or was there a trigger point of what kind of made some of that manifest?
Well, I'll tell you this much, as I like to say on my gratitude lists, I suffer from the chronic lonelies, the chronic mopies, and the chronic angries, and I have all my life. But then I got the hint that gratitude is probably the most holistic and best way to dig yourself out of that pit of self-doubt and the torture chamber of your own mind, the rumination, to reformat your self-talk. It is the most powerful thing to reformat that your inner narrative, that when you start hearing the voice of wisdom instead of a nagging thing telling you to fight with imaginary people like whoever PDO or whoever ex or your parents or a workmate, when it kicks in and then you hear the voice of wisdom saying, you must simply run your anger or your anger is going to run you. I think that's when that's when you're making progress and you're getting better. And that's where my self-talk is now. And I'm very appreciative for that. I mean, the gratitude list is a simple tool. I started doing it on the advice of Gary Beekler from Nerdrotic. And he suggests this to many people. I picked up on that and I ran with it. And I started doing written ones every morning. And then they accumulated. I didn't throw them out. I just kept them. And I have stacks of old ones. When my day went sideways, I would look at these gratitude lists and I could literally count all these things to be grateful for. Like on Tuesday, you had 11 things. On Thursday, you had 14 things. And to have the power to count your blessings has this power that it will stop the inertia of your bad day or your bad moments, it's going to give you a neutral space where you can make a new decision. Now you can continue to have a crappy day. That's, that's a choice. It's a conscious choice, but you could also choose something else and to react differently, to react without anger, to react without judgment. And for a person like me, I just, like I said, I'm an only child. I'm from the South Boston projects. I just, I've seen a lot of bad stuff, as a lot of us have, but we don't have to be the result of our emotional luggage and our
Sure.
experiences. We can be
Yeah.
in the moment. We don't have to use worry. We don't have to over rely on hope either. Both of those are just using your imagination to come up with a conclusion. No, it's like the Buddhist thing. Release your attachment to that and live in the moment and find a middle way. And I mean, it's taken me a lifetime, and I'm blessed to have had this lifetime in order to discover that, and that I haven't hurt myself, and that I got this far. And if someone like me can do it, I know you can too.
I agree. I had a pastor who preached on the story of Jesus gets in the boat with the disciples, and the
Mm-hmm.
storm happens out on the lake, and of course they're freaking out, whatever. And and the message was, it's like, you can't stop the storm from coming, but you can control how you react to the storm. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, man, that was some heavy, deep stuff that's always stuck with me. So without even getting into the spiritual or the biblical part of all that, it was like, wow, just the concept of how you react to the bad news, how you react to the turmoil
Yeah.
is that's the part you can control. There's going to be a storm. We'd be lying to you if we didn't say you're one phone call from being to your knees. Or, it's one moment from having something. Sure, but how do you react to that? How do you respond to that? And sometimes it's just taking a pause and saying, listen, I also have a lot to be thankful for. I can steer my compass and
Mm-hmm.
and look at due north is the right path. So I think it's a great thing, and I'm so happy that you do it.
Thank you. I've got
I
a
will
lot of
admit that
good
I also enjoy the
responses.
bunnies. Yeah, I
And
enjoy the
people
bunnies too.
enjoy the bunnies, and
Sure.
I've gotten actually the most views on the planet. I've gotten like 2,000 views on one short, and I'm like, really, my little station? Yeah, people really like that. And in the cooking, I am a professional chef. I've been working in restaurants and in kitchens for 30 plus years, and I make cooking content. I share my cooking hacks with you. I've earned the nickname, the Sultan of Soup. I would make
The
because I was
Sultan of Soup. Is there a shirt? Can I get a
I
Sultan of?
should.
Oh, absolutely, you should. Oh my
I would get in trouble
gosh,
for cultural
yes.
appropriation, but I don't believe in that.
No, please. Yes.
And I'm not going to agree
Oh
to
my,
that. I'm like, I
Sultan of
will be the
Soup.
Sultan of. I am the Sultan of Soup because my name's
Oh man, so many
O'Sullivan,
things we could do that.
and
Yes.
it's like
Oh yeah.
yeah, Sully and Sultan of Soup. So I'm like,
Oh,
oh my
it's all
gosh,
on brand. It's on brand. It needs to
that
just happen.
it's
Yeah.
Wes from Thinking Critical. He dubbed me that. Yeah, it's
The
true. And
Sultan of
the
Soup.
Sultan of Soup. And I'm
The
like, thank you,
Rev,
Wes.
Sully. Yeah, Sully,
Yes.
the Sultan of Soup. Yes,
But I
it
would
needs
put
to happen.
I would make cooking shorts and like, what's the soup I'm making today at work? I work. I'm a union chef, 15 years now. I work in a Boston area university, and it's a really great place to work and to ply my trade. And I love making delicious, nutritious, and beautiful food. And I can teach you a couple of hacks that you can do this at home for you and your loved ones. Bing.
Sultan of Soup.
The Sultan of Soup. What is the Sultan of Soup
Did
bringing you
not
today?
know we were going to have the Sultan of Soup on today, did you, folks? Didn't know. Now you
They're
know.
making chowder, New England clam chowder. I got an accent.
Oh, it's in there. I've heard you do it.
It's in there.
What do you do, or how would you advise people? Before I give my answer, on advising people, like, 'cause one of the biggest things I think also is the hang up on worrying about what everybody will think of you, worried about what
Hmm.
everybody else will say. It's like, I don't want to do YouTube channel because I don't want to do that. It's like, it's all that judgmental stuff that we put in our own brains and that kind of thing. What is one of the things that you would say to folks?
Be yourself. I mean, we all. I think a lot of us have a common origin story that we start off on our phones with a tripod phone clip with a ring light. You know, a lot of us start off that way, and it's a great place to start, because then once you find your voice and start to use it and have a clue, then upgrade and puts, you know, put a couple of dollars into it. I got some great advice. Once again, Gary Beekler from Nerdrotic. I was in a member stream around lockdown, and he simply advised, get yourself a really good microphone, get yourself a decent webcam, and something to say. Now, this is a paraphrase, but I believe it really nails the spirit of it. And I'm very grateful for him for the two advices that have helped me out a lot here. And that is the gratitude list and how to do the YouTube. You just have to, you know, have something to say. So I got a refurbished desktop for a very reasonable price on Amazon. I got a very nice Blue Yeti kit with a boom arm and in a really decent webcam with a ring light. And that's what you need. And have something to say. For like organizational stuff, like I do the old fashioned way. I got a legal pad. I have, like, you know, they're kind of show notes, but it's more of like the skeleton of my show. And then during the show, I ad lib, I improvise, but I always have a clue of what I'm talking about. So that's when I'm laying down, you know, the nervous system and the muscles and the skin. But yeah, but write something down, write an outline of what you want to do, and a simple shooting schedule. Like, this is my July shooting schedule. Just like keep to it, you know, and keep writing down ideas so you can inspire yourself and refer to it too. You'd be like, how many times I forget to refer to my notes.
Keep that up there though. Yeah. Sure. You know what's important though is he wrote that down, and notice he scratched them off. You know, if you guys haven't seen me say this before, that's that dopamine hit right there, baby. When you mark something off your list, it's a dopamine list when you scratch it off. It's definitely in the experiments. Like they could prove that. Like, it's part of the drug. It's part of the addiction of why to-do lists are so important. It's because it's like, you know, it is a sense of accomplishment. It's like it's the video game principle. Why does video games? It's like, well, you're going through levels and you're leveling up and you're getting more points, you're getting more powers. Everything. It's like, you know, there is something to be said with how our wiring works like that. Whether it be, I know for me, one of the things I've been going through here recently was trying to look at my finances as an infinite game financially of like, okay, all right. And it's like, you know, you owe X amount. It's like, you know what? If I do $18 extra on that bill, then I'm going to be below the 0 on the next bill. Does that make sense? It's below another threshold. It's another milestone. It's like each little thing you can do. It's like treating it like the video game levels and that kind of thing. Same thing with my to-do list. I have tons. I mean, they're not in front of me, but I literally have all these like rolling to-do lists of things like that. If Pat Ass does a lot of, if you're out there watching this premiere, Pat Ass is probably there. He's done all his scheduling for me. He's like, well, can you send me your schedule? And I'm like, you really didn't understand what you're asking for. So I literally just copy and pasted right out of this document. It's like it had the live show, it had the different things. It's like, so that's how it is for me. It's just like, it's literally like a to-do list of plug and play and trying to optimize that way.
And I also keep to a strict shooting schedule because I have a day job. I'm blessed to work Monday through Friday. And so I have weekends off for the first time in my professional life. Being an old restaurant salt, I've worked so many holidays, so many nights, so many weekends. I've missed so many, Easters. I've missed so many family get-togethers because of my trade. That now I have a stable life that I can have a work-life balance that I can fit in a YouTube schedule. And so I do shooting in the morning. I wake up, shave, brush your teeth, make sure your hands look nice. Cut your fingernails and buff them. You know what I mean? Because you're going to be, I'm showing comic books half the time and you can see my hands. You don't want grubby hands. You're on TV.
Your grubby hands shouldn't touch a comic book anyway. We have to have a standard somewhere.
Exactly. But like little things, it just like you get into this nice routine, and you get into it, and it's productive. So I shoot a week's worth of content, usually over 2 days in 2 mornings.
Yeah.
And then now, with the show being, it's successful for its own level. You know what I mean? I'm not in competition. I'm just simply, having joy and sharing it, that I get invited onto other people's shows. So I could be doing Wes's show on a Saturday morning, which is 10 a.m. Eastern time for me, and that's usually 2.5 hours. And there's maybe a Sunday show like a Ginger Ninja, and we go for hours sometimes. Sometimes it's 4 hours, and I'm like, whoa, where did that time go? We had such a good time hanging out, talking about art, watching art happen, and just shooting the breeze with friends in different parts of the world.
Yeah, it's really been fascinating, and I will admit, the world has kind of collapsed for me too. Where it's like now, you live in a city, and sure, you might go to your LCS, you might see some folks there that have some common interests, but usually it's not like the place is might have never really been flooded full of people unless it's like a sale day or an event day. So it's not like I go in, there's like 20 people to meet or anything like that. It's like, meet a person here, meet a person there. But with the internet, it's been easier now through live streaming and chats and things like that. You really can find people and find people to commune with and get to know a little bit differently and things like that. So, and I really like the fact that, your advice to I use the term batch shooting, where you kind of have a plan. So, all right, well, today I get off work, I'll have time to freshen up and eat something and do whatever. And then I have like this hour, this 2 hour, whatever this block of time is, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom.
And I'm productive with my time, mark it off my list. But like
keep moving.
No one gave me the expectation to do daily content. I just made that up. I just went with it. I had a great book. I have a hardcover coffee table book. It's called The Golden Age of DC Comics, 365 Days. And I felt it was a wonderful way to do daily content because it was a page a day. You open up to today's date. We would look at some comic book art of an antediluvian age. We would read the blurb, and then we're going to talk about comic books. And we're going to talk about comic books every day for the rest of the year. And we did it. And it just kept going.
Sure.
And that gave me my format. It was helpful. I was struggling. I was like, what am I going to talk about and how? And it was like, oh, I've got this old book I've had for 20 years given to me by one of my best friends. And it's been surfing my coffee table. And that evolved into my current show. It's called The Comics Coffee Table, where we congregate and take a coffee break together. And we enjoy our coffee break together, just talking about floppies and stories and the history of comic books and the history of publications and paper quality and just stuff like that. I find it fascinating, man.
Well, and I honor Comic Book Wednesdays, and you go out actually into the world and bring back comic books on Wednesdays. What else drives your content? Like, what else is sort of like, if I said to, what's the next 6 months like for Eric? Like, how do you sort of like kind of plan and plot that out for yourself?
It's just keep at it. It's just stick-to-itiveness is what I call it. It's just a drive to it's not about entertaining people. I guess I'm an only child, and so I was an extrovert and a very high energy child, and I grew up in the 70s, and so I'm blessed because if I grew up a decade later, they would have identified me as like attention deficit and would have had me on the appropriate medications, but I didn't. So I was like one of those kids that I listened to Richard Pryor tapes, I listened to George Carlin, Robin Williams, Bill Cosby, all these classic Eddie Murphy, like we memorized Delirious. I mean, in the timings and the cadence and just and how to tell jokes. And so and being an extrovert and being, an attention-seeking only child, I have the gift of gab. And so I know this is, for me, it's a natural fit. And so I find it like it's not easy and it's not effortless, but for me it's just about looking right into the camera and knowing that you and I are having a conversation, and that's about it. And then the words simply come.
Yeah.
It just, it's just, and it's a conversation. It's a dynamic. And now I share this with I am blessed to have sometimes about 20 people show up in my live chat. And for me, like I said, like I'm not in competition. How could I be in competition with any of these bigger channels? I mean, that's not going to help. What's going to help though is just, wow, there are 20 people showing up to my live chat. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and I've told people, I said, don't get yourself all caught up into all those numbers, because you don't. First off, YouTube is way too big to compartmentalize and think that your channel and your show at this particular time is the end all be all for X number of people, because you never know what you're up against. You never know what else is going on in the world. I mean, and there are so many shows. It's so impossible to find a slot where you're not, I don't want to say competing against somebody, but someone else isn't simultaneously doing something. You have to just do you. You just kind of have to carve out something that works for scheduling and your voice and being true. Yeah.
I don't even know how I picked 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern. That's because I get home at that time. So I'm able to be part of my own live chat. So I pre-recorded the show, and just kind of like this format where I'm engaging with the audience. I'm having a conversation. We're talking about comic books, and I've actually lost subs because you're not live right now. I'm like, no, this is pre-recorded, and I'm live in the live chat premiere with you right now. And but it's like, it has this illusion of being live, and because because it is TV in a way. It is the world of, you have to throw some make believe in there, and there is a performative element to it, and embrace it. Really, I mean, yeah.
If land on your feet to make it your comfort zone. So
what is anyone? Yeah, just do it and feel, get your station up and just and show up to other people's live chats and let people know that you're out there.
What has been one of the hardest parts for you during this whole journey?
Sticking to it. I mean, only recently have I taken a break. I did 564 consecutive days of daily content, and only last week did I break that out of sheer exhaustion, because I started hitting the wall a bit. It happens to everyone. Sure. I mean, I just, why did I'm taking this week off? And because I'm saying that this is my executive producer, Pika. He's on vacation this week. He demanded a vacation. And, awesome. But I did, in reality, it was like, I'm struggling with my content. I mean, I feel like as though I'm getting repetitive, and I feel, I felt like really a little overwhelmed. Like, oh my goodness, I'm not bored with it, but I'm more of like, it's not about challenging. I think it's because I'm on a break right now from work that when I'm working Monday through Friday, I have a very set schedule, and it's very, it's a nice, comfortable routine. And so I'm blessed to have the summer off, and I'm enjoying that time. So I got behind on my production.
Let me explain for everybody too. One of the big differences. So like for you, when you're doing all those videos and you drop them as premiered at 3 p.m., you try to be in the chat live in those chats. That means every day at 3 p.m., Eric's trying to be there as part of his video when they're being released.
If I'm able to, I'll be in my live chat. Yeah.
Versus me, where I will record videos that drop at specific times of the day, at 10:15, usually noon, 12:15, whatever. So I'm not in. There's no chat when you're just dropping a video, just publishes. So those are so those of you at home that don't do YouTube or how things work, a live stream is just that, it's live.
Correct.
Versus a premiere, which means it premieres at a certain time, and then it has a functional chat. So basically, it's in real time a chat. Correct. And then you have a video drop or a short or something like that. So
I mean, yeah, you can do that. And that's something when you get to know your YouTube screen and get to know and you're going to make mistakes, and that's part of the process. But I've got you get comfortable when you find it, and it's just so that's a toggle itself. You just go in your scheduling, and it's just like premiere, and that will enable the live chat. And you can actually read the live chat as well if you're catching the episode later. Because I make the show to be, I want to say, okay, my biggest inspiration as a YouTuber is Bob Ross.
That's where I was going to next.
Oh, cool! Really?
Our shared love. What have you not
Yes!
seen?
I know
my Bob Ross brand. Bob Ross is an emoji on this channel.
I'm just I mean, but it's
and
Bob Ross.
I have this. This is usually my intro, outro. This is usually part of the show. So Eric may not have seen this.
Bob Ross, all I do is chill. My life is a thrill for real. Bob Ross, I be too calm for the drama. You don't want to cause a problem, I'll solve it. Bob Ross.
Yes, we share the spirit animal love of Bob Ross. So
because I mean, he had 2 cameras set up, and he had a simple thing. He had like a 24-minute show, 2 cameras, and the same thing. I ripped him off completely, shamelessly. We're having a conversation. There are no accidents. I mean, there are no mistakes. There are only happy accidents. And look at that happy little tree. I mean, and this dynamic conversation he can have with you today. He did 28 seasons, I think it was. Is that it?
Oh yeah, something like that. Yeah.
You can tune into Bob Ross any day. I watch Bob Ross to chill out, after a day of work, and he's having this evergreen conversation with you, and that is what I try to do on my show, is to have an evergreen conversation with you. You could tune into any episode, hopefully any day, and you can be like, oh wow, I just learned something about comic books, or oh wow, remember that one? And so that's like my big Bob Ross. Thank you.
29. This is 31 seasons.
31 seasons, exactly.
He's my ASMR too, so I will have him as also like back. But there's been times where it's like, if I don't have Rain, I choose Rain, like just turn on, like it's Bob. The problem with Bob is I got to make sure I pick something where there's not a lot of commercials, because the commercials will not be at the same volume as his show. So I can wake you up. Yeah. We'll completely derail the What's Your Story part to go into this rabbit hole, because someone who's like cut from the sick cloth as me, because Bob is in that category of the OG content creators that inspires us. I'm going to add Fred. Mr. Rogers to that list, right?
Who's next? Yeah. He has that same dynamic, that same evergreen conversation, because he's looking right at you and he's saying, like, I'm very proud of you. I mean, what you're doing right now is the best you can do, and that's good enough. And I'm very proud of you for that. And just that is like, that spirit, it lives on in me and in you and anyone else that we can convey this message to. Watch some Bob Ross, watch some Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. This is how it's done. It's simple, it's uncomplicated, and it's human, and it's honest, and have a conversation.
And Fred did so many of those voices himself, which was to me just next level of like, man, that's let me throw another name at you too. Again, more of the outlandish category, but yes, the same thing, and that would be Wolfman Jack.
Right? Yes.
Wolfman Jack was this famous disc jockey and just this persona that transcended the faceless voice behind a microphone. He become a person that would be on camera. He made cameos and things like that. What are some of the others for you? Some other names that you could throw out there in that sort of category?
I grew up in Boston, so I have the local disc jockeys on FM rock radio. I grew up beheld to the morning show of the 70s and 80s and 90s before Howard Stern took over. It was called The Big Mattress on WBCN 104.1 rock radio, and Charles Laquidera, and he's still with us. And this guy, he's like this legendary Boston DJ, and just like the sense of humor, the antics, and this like this welcoming thing. Like he's inviting you into his studio every day. So does Ross, and so does Rogers, and so do we. And that's about being a host, and that's about just like, welcome, come on in. We're gonna, let's spend some time together. And from 6 to 10 a.m., I was glued to my radio most of the time, like during that time. If I wasn't in school, awesome. Before school, or, but yeah, I mean, big old school radio
Dr.
fan.
Demento was one for
Dr.
me as
Demento,
well.
Under the Smogberry Trees on the Westwood One Radio Network.
Yes. I
He's
think
still
I think
around
in
too.
yeah. I think in Hollywood for me it was reading Robert Rodriguez's book.
Yeah.
Right. That
Yes.
when I read the book, he went through human experimentation to raise some money so he could shoot El Mariachi, and it was like, whoa, holy cow, this is an option. Like I didn't know that was, and he would go around to the Kodak to get all the clippings. That's how he could afford to do film. He had to put them back together. And it was like, man,
it's called Rebel Without a Crew for everyone out there in TV land. It's a wonderful book. And what that did for me as a YouTube creator, it taught me the importance of your camera setup, your blocking, meaning like knowing where to put your chair. I had a piece of gaffer tape on my rug where I should put the wheels of this chair. You know what I mean? So, because, figure out your shot. Be mindful of your background. This is a production, and you want to put your best foot forward. But that Robert Rodriguez book, one of my friends, his son is going is graduating high school, and he's taking film in college. And I gave him my copy of that, my hardcover copy, my beloved hardcover copy I've had for 25
I gave mine away too. I was like, oh, you're going to film school, huh? All right,
here you go. Here's the 10-minute film. This is
you may not want to go now. You may just want to read this book and be like, forget that. I can just do this.
But yeah, that Rodriguez book is just, it's just simple. When he was talking about all the setups that Hitchcock did for Psycho and the shower scene, and it just drove into me like the importance of be mindful of your camera at all times, and be mindful of your mic, and be mindful of your hot mic, and little things like that. I don't know. How many times have you done this? You're about 10 minutes into filming and you look up and you see the flashing light of mute on your mic and you're like, oh, darn those pants.
I did a whole video recently, because I do Saturday morning cartoons. I did my X-Men animated rewatch, and I downloaded it, and there's no audio. I'm like, I'm checking all the buttons, and I'm like, I go to the original file, and I look, and it's completely flat. And I'm like, huh. So then I'm like sitting here, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I must have moved the microphone, and when I did, my finger pushed the button. So yeah.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, that happens. I did a live stream, and people were blowing it up. Like, when are you going to start? We thought we had started. We didn't hit the red button. We talked for 20 minutes before someone finally said something. I'm like, OMG.
It sounds like FNT, more like it.
Oh, it is just, it's an insane world. It's an insane. Right. So typos, wrong information in the description where I'll copy and paste things over and I miss something or whatever. It's like I got one or two people that are like, feel like it's okay to correct somebody. I'm like, listen, I'm not trying to embarrass you. I'm just trying to let you know it's incorrect. Like, you obviously didn't do this on purpose. So yeah.
Yeah. As I like to say, like, as being the chef, it was like, I tell this story. It was like, hey, like, listen, I remember one time one of my waiters was about to go out on the floor. I'm like, stop. Like, come here, man. You got a booger in your nose and I can see it. Like, because, you take care of that before you go out there. And he's like, oh, gee, thanks. And because what are you going to do? Am I going to send this guy? I noticed that. And what am I going to, I have to make the choice. Am I going to, no. Come here. Take care of that. Because these people are sitting down. They're looking basically up your nose and they're going to see it. And I know it sounds gross.
You got a big crusty, man. I'm having soup. From the Sultan. Like, I can't have a crusty and Sultan soup. No.
I can't. Don't go out my customers. Our guests, actually, not customers, guests.
Gotcha.
That's about it. You're our guest. Come on in and enjoy the time we spend together here.
Yes. Cue the song. Be our guest. Be
my guest.
What is the one thing that you hope people get out of this YouTube journey? From watching you, like if there was one legacy that was said about Eric O'Sullivan, the Rev, the Sultan of Soup, 5 years, 10 years, 20, 25 years from now, what's the one thing you hope that people would say?
I would hopefully. I like to make the point that connect with the people in the chat. You'll never know. You might make some friends. I'm blessed and grateful that I made a group of friends in my adult life they're all geeks like the rest of us. We're all shy and awkward, and we're, but we literally have 8-9 people that show up for dinner and a movie a couple of times a year. And we call it the New England Rebellion Detachment, the NERD. And we're all going to meet up at Fan Expo Boston next week. Maybe there's a gang of us. This is like 7, 8 of us. And the most we had a table last year. My buddy Thomas Gilkey, the Gilk Man, he put it together at the barbecue place. We had 16 people at our table on a Saturday night at Fan Expo for supper. I mean, and that was just, I was blown away by that. We had a real mini meetup. Heck, that wasn't even mini. That was like,
no, that's a solid meetup right there.
That's a solid meetup. And because con was done, and it was like everyone show up. We were lucky to get like the big table, and and just it all worked. And there's just, you're sitting next to people you don't know, and that's great because they're people that that they're new there too. They're just like you. They're going solo or maybe with a friend or two, but still we all came together and enjoy this fellowship and make those connections. And if you can, make local plans with those people around you, and it can fall together. And I'm very grateful for the Memes of Destruction, for Dr. Rachel Lindbergh, for Thomas Gilkey, for the Brightest Day and Macklin Made It, for D-Day Direwolf, for Brian Buchanan, for Marcus. It's just, and everyone else that I haven't mentioned. You know what I mean? Snacks and Comics. I mean, there's a new group of friends. I mean, seriously, they're out there, and you've gone to meetups, so you've like, and that's how you. This is it's putting the social back into the social media.
Yeah, I wish. So the only regret I had was that we didn't have that plan for afterwards or breaks. And it was like I was green at doing this type of meetup or whatever, so we didn't really have that plan. So yes, I had a chance to meet James, the Ginger Ninja, and yet we didn't. We dropped the ball because we didn't really have a great plan of what to do next, that kind of thing. So, but it's nice to know that's there. And it's nice to know how to kind of nurture that and let that manifest. And I agree that's something that could be a huge positive from all this.
We have a mostly tentative plan that Wes from Thinking Critical, who lives in the Philippines, he's gonna hopefully come to. He's got permission from his wife that come to Fan Expo Dallas in 2025. So we're gonna. I'm like, yeah, let's do the show live. What? What do you mean? Like the FNT boys can do it. Why can't we? I'm like, okay. Like, so plans. We'll tell everyone as they're developing, but I mean,
get a table.
Exactly.
Get a table. Just get a table. Like you don't need to worry about them inviting you. Just get a table. Get 4 or 5 people, split the costs. Just have a table, sign things, give things away, whatever it is. Just hang out. This is where we'll be.
Yeah. I mean, last year I went to Fan Expo 2022 here in Boston. Anna, that Star Wars girl, and Chrissy Mayer and Zia Anderson did Simcast live. And that was fun because also their table was right next to the children's play area of the toddlers. So they had to take this usually R-rated racy Ribalt show and make a PG version of it, PDQ, pretty darn quick. Awesome. And it was so fun. It made it work, and it was so great. I mean, it was fun to be part of that and to meet them too, awesome. Like the people that we see on our YouTube shows. Anna ended up following me on YouTube, on Twitter. So did Zia, and it's great because I'm in a complete Captain America cosplay, Anna, that Star Wars girl, in a complete 7 of 9 Star Trek cosplay, and I'm like, we're just gabbing, and I'm like, I learned so much about cosplay just hanging out with her and like looking at like, wow, look at you, you're like light and mobile and comfortable. I'm so jealous.
Well, folks, it has been great to talk with Eric, with you guys. Learn a little more about Eric. Make sure you check that description. Get your links.
Try gratitude. If you're feeling low, I mean, seriously, write it down in the morning. There are so many things you can be grateful for. I usually start my gratitude list off with what I call the Foundation 7. I am grateful for my family, my friends, my faith, my freedom, my health, my union job, and a decent night's sleep. And that took a long time to get my head around. A lot of it had to do with achieving a level of sobriety and also a level of maturity. And that, a decent night's sleep is so hard for us these days because we're so distracted, we're so stressed out, and we have our just the weight of life in our schedules. But it is possible, and it's really the foundation of a healthier life. I can't stress that enough. Being able, and I got my doctor's help. Seriously, I have to reach out to your doctor and say, hey, I need help with my sleep. She gave me a pill. It's not a sleeping pill, but it's once I get to sleep, I stay asleep for hours in a row. And I'm so blessed for that. And that I have that ability to ask for help when I know I need it. And that I can also get a referral to a therapist if I know I need it. And so don't be afraid to ask for help, but to have the ability to reformat your self-talk is one of the most powerful things you can accomplish. And because I don't want to get all on this religious tip. I mean, I grew up Irish Catholic, and I'm more a Buddhist or a Hindu now. But when I have that self-talk, I call it, I refer to it as I can hear the voice of the Lord because it's the Lord's voice that tells me you need to run your anger, or your anger is going to run you. You need to run your kitchen, or your kitchen is going to run you. And that's a really powerful thing. And it's transformative, and it's uplifting, and it's going to keep you going, and it's going to clear your head too. You don't have to be mopey. You don't have to be angry, and you don't have to be lonely when you got the Lord on your side.
I would be remiss if I didn't share. So for me, I had to do like do kind of a two-parter for me.
Uh-huh.
I had to every day. I kind of have to get up, and I'm going to do two things first.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell why I do it this way. I have to have something to do. So there has to be an item of something I need to get done and out of the way. Now, sometimes it can be something like, if, tomorrow morning, this X video has to get updated, blah, blah, blah. It can be something more task driven, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I have to read from my Bible every day. And I do it first thing. And the reason I say I do it first thing is because I was listening to, I think it was George Mack, and he made a comment about, think about how many times a day you think, oh, I need to do this. I wish I had done this, whatever, and add up all those minutes and how many more minutes it took for that versus if you had just done it first thing and got it out of the way.
Exactly.
And I was like, holy cow, that is so true. Like if I could just knock it out, I'm no longer stressing myself or making myself feel guilty for not reading my Bible today, or not reading, or I didn't take care of this task. And it can be something simple, guys. It can be, you need to check your bank account. I need to make sure that this is get this one task out of the way, so you don't spend your time thinking, worrying, guilting yourself, whatever. And it's in addition to what I think Eric is nail on the head, is a gratefulness attitude going into the world, knowing that, yes, today could turn into a real sucky day, but you know what? You still have a lot of things going for you. You really, really do.
The gratitude leads to purpose. The visual, seeing your gratitude and being blessed and grateful, it really gives you more purpose, and that's an X factor into what is missing and what we could be the driving force behind our miseries. It's if once we have a better purpose, once we know what we're here to do. I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve other people. I mean, and I'm here to help. You make an intrinsic switch from what's in it for me to how can I help? That's power. That's personal power. And that's spiritual power. And that's a good thing.
I know we exchanged a video here recently. I don't know if it was that video or it's a different one, where you talk about, there's a whole section in bookstores about self-help. There's no books. There's no books on helping someone else. And I'm like,
that's amazing.
That's a home run. If you can get that around your head, like, think about that. Think about how narcissistic the world is. Like, you think about that. Think about the world is so obsessed with self-help, and there's not a book on helping others. And if you can get that around your head, like, holy crap, if I could just be helpful, you know what I mean? And I know it sounds silly, but just the idea of just something small, just something, like, I always love that there these two, not I don't know, they're not bad movies, but they're not
Mhm.
good movies, right? Pay It Forward is okay. Pay It Forward
Yes.
it's an okay movie, right? To Pay It Forward.
Sure.
The other one is the Evan Almighty movie, right? The Noah's
Okay.
thing about it's like a random act of kindness was the gimmick on the thing because it was building an ark, but at the end, Morgan Freeman is God. It's like it's a random act of kindness. I'm like, see, it's those little there is something in there, like that. There is some substance to that. And anyway, we blabbered on because that's what YouTubers do. If you leave us alone in the room long enough, we're just going to keep going, people. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because it's this is the conversation. Be part of
Yes.
it. You can also join in the conversation in the comment section as well at
Yes.
any time and be part of it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, make sure you're connected to Eric. Get everything from bunnies to soup, baby. Comics in between. There you go.
Buns to
The
soup.
Sultan of Soup.
The Sultan of Soup. That's right.
Folks, listen, I hope you have a blessed weekend. Take care of yourselves. Talk hard. Until next time, I am Pops.
Cheers.